This podcast is sponsored by brilliant, liberation-minded folks who are actively challenging privilege and power in their relationships with children and education. We live at patreon.com/Akilah, patreon.com/AKILAH. These members of the Fear of the Free Child community help to produce these weekly sessions around raising free people. I'm sending mad love to our most recent patrons, Brianna, Matricia, Sarah, and Chenault Solutions. Thank you so much, y'all. And I invite you listening to join us over at patreon.com/Akilah for as little as $1 per month.
You can't keep using tools of oppression and expect to raise free people.
I spent last Sunday in Tucson, Arizona, which, where do I start? This is not a travel episode. This is a community organizing and uplifting and informational episode. But I gotta tell you, on the travel tip, Tucson is like the place. So it kind of reminds me of Boulder, Colorado in terms of like the beautiful mountain peaks and the openness and just being able to see clear across because buildings are lower. You can see much further across than you can in like Atlanta. You can look out at the sky and see way out there. So it's kind of like that, except in terms of the culture, it's not just a bunch of white people, basically. That's going to create a different level of like vibrancy and just like the type of foods and the sounds and the colors in the space. Yo, I was like, why have I been sleeping on like this whole entire side of the US? But I'm awake. Thank you, Lane, for bringing me out, y'all. You know Lane, if you've been part of this community for a bit. She was on episodes 17, again on episode 24, episodes 17 and 24. And you also heard her a little bit as I did the recap of the Liberation and Education Summit on episode 67. Yeah, so shout out to Lane. We got to meet for the first time a few months ago at that summit in Atlanta. And then again, we got to hang out in her hometown of Tucson for this event that she put together with a group of other folks around Black, Indigenous, and people of color in self-directed education. And I'm wanting to do more of these community-focused talks around BIPOC in SDE. More. So I'm so grateful that I've been to a few different cities over the year. And shout out to Lane for putting that together. And if you haven't listened to those episodes with Lane, I will put the link to them on today's show notes page, raisingfreepeople.com/84. Those two sites are linked, by the way. AkilahSRichards.com and raisingfreepeople.com. They go to the same place. So let me tell y'all, the event was just wonderful. We sat together for maybe about 3 hours. We had some good food. Lane is a Chicanx, and so her peoples had like the food kind of felt like Jamaica in terms of like the level of spice and variety and color. You know, it just felt really familiar but different in a beautiful way. So the food was good, which is gonna make me happy. And the community setting was just awesome. We were actually at the Dunbar African American Cultural Center in Tucson. Shout out to Jim, CK, Tenoch, Yaneli, baby. Oh man, Lane just had a baby like a few months ago and he's like so chill and awesome. Traci, Nicole, Yvonne, Teresa, Penelise, I just really appreciate y'all. Patricia who is a partera, which is a midwife, and she's also an herbalist, I believe. She gave us a clearing at the end and blessed us and showed us how to bless ourselves. You know, one way to bless ourselves with water and plant life and words. And Traci opened us up too with blessings in all directions, and then also blessing ourselves. It was just a lot of infusion of normal, natural, cultural, indigenous, native things that honor our ancestors, that honor the land. Again, it just felt beautifully familiar for me from a cultural space, but also unique and new. And so I just really appreciated that. It made me feel safe. That's the word that came up for us, a few of us there, as we talked about how we felt towards the end of it. Yeah, so as we were there, and of course it was a community of adults and children, space was made for all of us. There were people there of different ages. And we talked about things like, you know, from the basic things like what compelled us to reclaim learning, why we started the organizations that each of us are associated with, or the bodies of work, the three guests, myself, Penelise and Teresa, talking about cultural identity and how that plays a role in our experience of self-directed education. They just came up with some really interesting questions and sort of like guiding points for us to move the conversation around. And I'm really hoping that these are the sort of things that are happening in some of the local groups that are being formed. The Alliance for Self-Directed Education, as I've mentioned on other episodes here, is really doing a lot, and we're really working hard to support folks in starting local groups and just being in community, being so graciously welcomed in Tucson in that community of folks who were very much and are very much centering indigeneity and all of the things that encompasses, and community and togetherness and liberation, especially in the ways that we can offer that to our young people or get out of the way of that for our young people. It just really moved me. So yeah, I'm feeling Tucson. I'm loving Arizona. And I'm so grateful for the space that we were able to co-create on June 10th. Much more to come. I'm preparing for the Agile Learning Facilitator Summer Training in Charlotte in July 8th to the 15th, Sunday to Sunday. If I need to know about, or if we can figure out a get together for us in self-directed education during that week in Charlotte, holla at me on my site, raisingfreepeople.com. There's that little voice memo thing. Or you can email me, she@akilahrichards.com. I'm already going to be there. So if you've wanted to talk that talk in or near Charlotte with me in the mix that week of July 8th to the 15th, that might work. Speaking of work, my friends over at the Alliance for Self-Directed Education, ASDE, are communicating the message and benefits of a self-directed education. This Thursday, June 14th, the Alliance is hosting an Ask Me Anything session with Shilpa Jain. Shilpa and I met last year at a mutual friend's house around good food and really good music. And we had such a good conversation about freedom and peace and how to engage folks. And so I associate Shilpa with pure good vibes. So I'm really excited that she's going to be mixing with us over at ASDE and sharing her insights with all of us. She is, and I'll just read a little bit here from the site, a talented facilitator, author, and activist for alternatives to schooling around the globe. She's worked as a learning activist for 10 years with Sheikh Shantar, the People's Institute for Rethinking Education and Development based in India. She's currently living near San Francisco and is the executive director of YES, an organization that provides support for passionate young social change leaders. Yeah. So if you're interested in conversations about ways to apply self-directed education to social activism or to adult education, these sorts of things, that's what Shilpa is all about. So make sure that you are over at self-directed.org and that you're a member, because you'll get an email with the direct link to ask her questions in the forum, and it's going to be good stuff. Join us next week. Episode 2 of Surviving Survival Mode, Monique's series, on going from survive to thrive. The hashtag for that is ThriveMo, all one word, ThriveMO as in Monique. Also, speaking of hashtags, make sure that we're connected on Instagram, Fear of the Free Child. There are a couple of hashtags in my bio that we use to share our information and stay connected as well. It's such a great way to sort of keep your visual virtual community as you navigate your days and your moments. So looking forward to that next week. I can't say enough about how much I appreciate your feedback on the podcast. Episode 100 is coming up, and I have some really exciting things in mind on ways to just sort of celebrate this community that is continuing to form and to spread, around this work. And I'm just learning so much about so much as I continue to do this work, the ways that self-directed education has been for years and decades liberatory, and the ways that now for the first time it's becoming liberatory for others in communities that we choose and honor and value safely, All right, y'all. Much love. Thank you for listening. Talk to you next week.
Fear of the Free Child is a weekly podcast that centers
diverse narratives, insightful commentary,
learning with our children and deschooling ourselves, owning our multiple identities and treating children with dignity,
creating community and sharing conversation from often silenced spaces,
breathing life into liberation practices proactively and on purpose.